country is now well into the third week of the nationwide lockdown. A report published yesterday indicated that the countrymen are more or less satisfied with the government policy in their fight against the deadly novel coronavirus, as the infected cases so far has been largely limited in Nepal. However, globally the reports are not so encouraging, with the death toll surpassing 88,000. Good morning, I'm Amar Singh Pradhan and these are the headlines of the hour. 1,500 samples collected in 2 days to test for possible coronavirus infection, preventing virus outbreak in far west region a challenge due to an overflow of people from India flouting quarantine provisions. APF personnel beef up monitoring at the Nepal-India open border due to unhindered entry of individuals across the southern border with possible coronavirus infection. Commercial banks reluctant to reduce interest rates and loans despite reducing the interest rates and deposits. Experts term it as a profit-oriented policy. And global death toll due to coronavirus exceeds 88,000. Active cases cross 1.5 million, over 330,000 recovered. The US surpasses Spain with 14,795. Amid criticism facing the government for its sluggishness in carrying out coronavirus tests during the lockdown period, additional 1,500 swab samples were collected on Tuesday and Wednesday from 6 different districts. The results of the sample test would confirm to what degree the virus has spread in the country. The technicians and medical professionals under the Ministry of Health along with Nepal Army collected 802 samples from Surkhet, Jumla and Acham and 340 samples from Kailali and Kantipur districts yesterday. Likewise, 332 swab samples were collected from Doti district. Meanwhile, all the collected samples have been brought to Kathmandu for assessment. As many as 132,000 Nepali nationals entered the country's far west region from India in the past 4 weeks. The region has thus been considered a high-risk zone for the possible spread of the novel coronavirus. As per the latest update, no new cases of coronavirus has been detected in the country except for the 9 cases detected earlier. According to the Ministry of Health, 2,366 samples have been tested so far. Likewise, the ministry has said that all the individuals who had been in contact with the infected individuals have been traced.
Diagnostic kitबाट टेस्ट गरिरहेका छौं त्यो र पीसीआर प्रविधिबाट दुवै प्रविधिबाट कसरी गर्ने अहिले जुन हामीले सुरुवात गर्यौं अस्तिको यो मन्त्री परिषदको निर्णय अनुसार हामीले चैत महिनामा आएका विदेशबाट आएका नागरिकहरू र 3 जिल्ला बागलुङ कञ्चनपुर र कैलालीकामा रहेका क्वारेन्टाइनमा रहेका व्यक्तिहरू र बागलुङको संक्रमितको वरपरका व्यक्तिहरूलाई जुन गर्ने भनेर निर्णय भएको छ त्यसको लागि कसरी गर्ने भनेर हामीले कार्यविधि तयार गरेर हिजोदेखि काम सुरु भइसकेको अवस्था छ.
There are 134 people in isolation across the country in suspicion of contracting the novel coronavirus. Preventing the entry of people with possible infected cases with coronavirus from the country's open border with India in the south has turned out to be the biggest challenge. Meanwhile, the armed police force personnel have been deployed along the border transits along the eastern Mechi to the western Mahakali region. The security measures has been put in place following reports of allegedly infected people entering from India. Given the alarming situation, the armed police force security have currently been patrolling the border transits and also monitoring the individuals entering from the transits around the clock, despite the security personnel themselves at the high risk of contracting the virus. The Indian Border Security Force personnel also have been deployed at the other sides of the transits to control the flow of the people across the border. Although the Nepal Army personnel have also been deployed along the border transits, a majority of APF personnel have been working to prevent the possible outbreak of coronavirus in the country. The third phase of the nationwide lockdown started from yesterday. The government had earlier extended the lockdown period by 8 days, citing its attempt to prevent the community spread of the novel coronavirus. The nationwide lockdown has been in place since 24th of March. Meanwhile, the number of people violating the lockdown has increased with the extension. More vehicles are seen plying on the streets yesterday compared to the previous days. Meanwhile, police have taken more than 150 vehicles into custody from different locations in Kathmandu for breaching the lockdown provision. The government has prohibited operation of vehicles during the lockdown period except for the ones used for emergency and highly essential purposes. The government has urged the public to remain indoors, citing that the risk of the coronavirus outbreak has still not subsided. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli, in his address to the nation on Tuesday, had said that the next 2 weeks would be even more challenging in terms of the government's effort to contain the coronavirus outbreak in the country. The government has also prohibited traveling from one district to another during the period of the nationwide lockdown from today onwards. According to the Department of Traffic Police, more than 1,200 vehicles have been booked and penalized since the start of the lockdown. Meanwhile, as per a recent study, the public in general have been seen in favor of not easing the lockdown anytime soon. The study suggests that 63% of the overall citizens are satisfied with the government's efforts to contain the virus outbreak, while 8% are totally satisfied with the government's initiatives. Likewise, as per the response of the public, 59% have said that they have completely adhered to the lockdown provision, and a majority of the citizens have currently been relying on radio and television as the major sources of information. The Far West region has recently been termed as Nepal's high-risk zone for coronavirus outbreak. More than 132,000 individuals had entered into Nepal from India, where the infected cases are increasing with every passing day. Out of those 132,000, only around 2,400 have been kept in quarantine, whereas the remaining people have already returned to their respective districts, which has escalated the risk of the community spread of COVID-19. 500 samples have been collected for the test of the people in quarantine. However, a huge number of individuals who refrained from staying in quarantine were allowed to escape the test, citing the lack of adequate human resources and equipment. This has made the containment of coronavirus outbreak in the country more challenging. 4 people were tested positive for COVID-19 from Kailali and Kantipur alone. The government since then has started collecting samples of those in quarantine for rapid diagnostic tests, assuming these districts as the epicenter in Nepal. Health Ministry deployed technicians from the center itself to collect the samples from quarantined individuals of these 2 districts. The individuals who had entered Nepal's Sudur Paschim province from different border points with India do not just belong to Kailali or Kantipur districts. They also hail from Acham, Doti, Dareldhura, Bajura, Bajang, along with other parts from Karnali province. As a majority of them have headed to their homes, delay in tracing and testing these individuals has added to the risk of coronavirus spread. Meanwhile, 1,375 Nepali nationals stranded at the Indian side of the border have also not been tested for the virus. A Nepali national living in the UK and identified as former Gurkha Army Chet Prasad Gurung has died of coronavirus. Gurung had been living in London and reportedly died on Tuesday in London's Northwick Park Hospital. According to Nepalese embassy in the UK, Gurung is the 2nd former Gurkha Army and 3rd Nepali national to die of COVID-19 in the UK. The 59-year-old hailed from Parbat, Nepal, and had been serving as vice chairman for the Tamudhi London chapter. The commercial banks in the country have already reduced the interest rates for the customers' deposits following a drastic decline in the demand of bank loans amid coronavirus crisis. At a time when a majority of debtors have been unable to pay their installments due to the ongoing crisis, the banks have, however, remained reluctant to reduce the interest rates on loans. The demand of loans has declined as a majority of industries in the country has been shut down due to the nationwide lockdown. As a result, the banks have reduced the interest rates on deposits to a maximum 5.5%. As per the bankers, the interest rates on loans should automatically reduce due to the decline in the base rate following the decrease in the depositors' interest rate. The commercial banks, however, are planning to reduce the loan interest rates only after a 2-month period. as many debtors are currently unable to pay their installments due to the crisis induced by the global coronavirus pandemic and the nationwide lockdown. Experts are of the view that it's the responsibility of the commercial banks to provide some relief to the debtors by slashing the interest rates on bank loans. This, according to experts, would further impact the loan expansion, eventually downsizing the bank's profits in the coming days. The Ministry of Social Development of Province 5 has taken action against 5 doctors who refused to attend their duties and amid the ongoing efforts to contain the coronavirus outbreak in the country. The ministry penalized 5 doctors working at Lumbini Provincial Hospital by sacking them from their positions without advance notice as they failed to show up for their duties. According to the hospital's medical superintendent, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Khanal, Tara Prasad Sharma and Bardhan Oli working for the radiology department, Prakash Neupane of the ENT department, neurosurgeon Subhash Chandra Chaudhary and Prakriti Kargi working at the hospital's emergency department have been relieved from their positions. All the 5 doctors who were working on contract basis at the hospital had remained absent without informing the hospital management. Meanwhile, Minister for Social Development of the province Sudarshan Baral has warned of taking action against the doctors working at other hospitals as well if they fail to show up for their duties without any valid reason. He said that the ministry has expedited monitoring in this regard. And now time for our segment Public Pulse, where it texts us with their opinion.
Public Pulse.
And your question is, why have banks been reluctant to reduce interest rates and loans, although had hurried to do so for deposits? Your options are A, profit-oriented, B, weak regulation, and C, lack of sensitivity during crisis. The voting is on. Tap any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And with that, it's now time for our special segment, Glorious History.
Margaret Thatcher, the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, dies in London at age 87 from a stroke on 8th of April 2013. Serving from 1979 to 1990, Thatcher was the longest-serving British Prime Minister of the 28th century. She curbed the power of Britain's labour unions, privatised state-owned industries, led her nation to victory in the Falklands War, and as a close ally of US resident Ronald Reagan, played a pivotal role in ending the Cold War. A polarising figure, Thatcher, nicknamed the Iron Lady, was credited by her admirers with championing free market, conservative policies that revitalized the British economy, while critics charged these initiatives hurt the nation's lower classes. Margaret Hilda Roberts was born on 23rd of October 1925 in Grantham, a town in northeast England. Her family lived in an apartment above the grocery store owned by her father, who also was a local politician. On 8th of April 2005, Eric Rudolph agreed to plead guilty to a series of bombings, including the fatal bombing at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, in order to avoid the death penalty. He later cited his anti-abortion and anti-homosexual views as motivation for the bombings. Eric Robert Rudolph was born on 19th of September 1966 in Merritt Island, Florida. He served a brief stint in the US Army and later supported himself by working as a carpenter. On 27th of July 1996, a 40-pound pipe bomb exploded in Atlanta's Centennial Olympic Park, killing 1 woman and injuring over 100 people. A security guard named Richard Jewell was initially considered the prime suspect in the case. Then on 16th of January 1997, 2 bombs went off at an Atlanta area medical clinic that performed abortions, injuring 7 people. In February of that same year, a bomb was detonated at a lesbian nightclub in Atlanta, injuring 4 people. On 29th of January 1998, a bomb exploded at a Birmingham, Alabama women's health clinic, killing a security guard and critically injuring a nurse. The World Health Organization was established on 7th of April 1948, which is commemorated as World Health Day. The World Health Organization is a specialized agency of the United Nations responsible for international public health. It is part of the UN Sustainable Development Group. The WHO Constitution, which establishes the agency's governing structure and principles, states its main objective as ensuring the attainment by all peoples of the highest possible level of health. It is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, with 6 semi-autonomous regional offices and 150 field offices worldwide. The WHO has played a leading role in several public health achievements, most notably the eradication of smallpox, the near eradication of polio, and the development of an Ebola vaccine. Its current priorities include communicable diseases, particularly HIV/AIDS, Ebola, malaria and tuberculosis, non-communicable diseases such as heart disease and cancer, healthy diet, nutrition and food security, occupational health and substance abuse. This is Bipashna Tamang for Glorious History and Kantipur News Desk.
And that's all for the moment. Stay with us for more news and entertainment on KDBSD. Good day and stay safe.